that I'm already starting to record. So we have it on. Hi guys. Okay, let's play a bit of music while people are waiting. While we're waiting for more people, let's just put this up. Is everyone in a good mood? That's always good.
Is Scott dancing, or is he trying to clear the camera? I don't.
It's a mixture. Changing the battery is kind of a dance. I have to like deconstruct my desk. But no, you guys are the talk of the town. I'm in the OD On Deck Course Creators group, and we're all chatting about butter right now. So.
Oh, that's amazing, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's like a small cohort of us that are like, all right, we're gonna
jump in.
Gonna crush butter right now. Yeah.
I hope not in a negative way, man. But
no. Well,
that's good.
Maybe like with bandwidth like issues, but.
Well, your camera decided to crush you right now, so I think
exactly.
they're trying to make
see
us win. It's true. But in
I finally bought the plug-in battery.
Hey, while we're waiting for people, thank you so much for attending the ButterMixer. Before we start off, me and Ross would actually love to know a bit more about you. So let's just do a bit of a quick poll to see where people are from and where you're at. I'll give you around 2 minutes for that. Let's make it fun, people.
What, no fade out? All right.
Sorry, I thought I was on mute clearly. I just made that awkward, guys. I'm really sorry. No, I can redo the fade out for all of you though, if you want. I'll play a better DJ later. But it's super cool that we're all from different parts, or we're all in different parts of the world today. And for you, Ross, who seems to have the best fun fact about themselves?
I quite like your singing contest one. I think having coffee with the Colombian president is pretty good. I want to know what kind of coffee. Were they Colombian beans or were they? Yeah.
Definitely Colombian coffee.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I was also a bit delayed, but I'll keep that open for everyone later.
What else have we got here? I think joining from Nigeria is a fun fact. I love to get I love to meet people from around the world, so that's really fun for me. Great.
Okay, thanks. And I think the agenda is already prompting me to go to the next point. But in any case, thank you guys again for joining ButterMixer. Today we'll be talking all about like how to deal with FOMO and hybrid collaboration. And there's no one actually better than Ross, who's with us today, to basically lead and facilitate this session to talk about that. So Ross is essentially like the community lead for remote sprinters, and he's also the head of design thinking for Etch at the moment. And obviously, like he's a remote design sprinter extraordinaire, I'd say. So definitely a good resource to have. And for today, we'll be doing the exercise on Miro. So I hope all of you guys are familiar with the tool, but if not, do let us know so we can give you a bit of an intro to that. And then yeah, let's just keep it casual. We'll be talking about mostly through an exercise. So we'd also love to know if you have any questions throughout. Just feel free to raise your hand. So much like I'm doing now, there's a queue at the side, so you can definitely just ask us any questions, or if you also have any thoughts, feel free to share them along the way. All right, cool. Hope that was quite clear. And Ross, just take it away.
Thank you very much. That's a lovely intro. Yeah, I saw the talks that have been on recently with ButterMixer, and I thought no one's really talking about the topic of the year, which is hybrid. So I thought I'd kick that discussion off. A little disclaimer, I don't have all the answers. I'm interested in it because everyone's talking about it and wondering how we can run remote and in-person workshops which coordinate in a hybrid kind of fashion. In the UK where I'm based, some people are returning to the office. Some employees liked the whole remote thing. People are talking about flexibility, but how do you plan around that? So I really want to set the tone that this is a group discussion. I'd like to collect some of these thoughts. A great output of this session would be to start drafting a hybrid workshop collaboration playbook that we can build upon within the community as we learn more. And I think that's going to help transition teams to understand how they can approach this new way of working. Like Cheska said, there is a Miro board. For anyone that hasn't used Miro before, join the club. I usually play in another space, and I had to dust off my Miro chops last night. So that's where some of the discussion points can happen. And then I thought we'd kind of culminate in a Google Word doc. If only Notion would really open up, that'd be great. But we'll start there and see what happens. So yeah, I will just introduce myself because not everyone will know what I'm all about. I'm a remote sprint facilitator. I work at the consultancy Etch in the UK, and I've really been in the design world for nearly a decade, hence the growth. I love running design sprints with new teams. I like bringing new ideas to the market. I'm not an inventor. I like solving other people's problems. And just like Jeff Bezos, I am obsessed with the end customer. So that is where you'll see me play. I like to share everything I know on the internet. You'll usually find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or somewhere else. And I really love what I do. I love this strange world that we seem to be in. It's the Wild West of remote work as I see it. And I've been a recent convert. I've only been working remotely for about 18 months or so. So I would like to talk a bit about hybrid, try and share what that might look like and what we might define as that. And then it'd be really interesting to hear from you what experiences you've had. Just share a common understanding about the opportunities and challenges around that. Do we make compromises? Yeah, totally. Do we make
putting that disabled first?
You know, that was great timing, by the way. That timing needs to say. It was getting a bit dry. Yeah, how can we work towards new behaviors without getting back to old habits? Because no one wants to go there. So I want to share my Miro, which I'm going to just share my screen. That's probably the easiest way of going about it. And let's just have a looky look. Okay, here we go. Okie dokie. And my tech works great when the sun is at its meridian, which means that everything burns in front of me. So do bear with me. So I see a few definitions of hybrid workshops. I think the ones that I like, I've included here. A hybrid workshop is any type of learning event. I've never heard of a workshop being a learning event, but I do understand it now. It's not a presentation. It is something that you're doing something together with. So I guess it is a learning event. And that's with both face-to-face and virtual participants. Interestingly, data shows that flexibility is a key driver, and hybrid is a desirable model. You may have seen this in the news. You might hear your other teammates or leaders talk about, oh, we need to do hybrid. You're not really knowing what that means. It's kind of like when we said we all needed chatbots 2 years ago, and still no one knows what that means. And we, you know, from my belief, we don't need to be in the factories anymore, and we likely shouldn't be. I think remote has enabled us to see how we all perform in a new way, because our bravado in the office, or we've just been unmasked in some of our work practices. So I think remote has really highlighted that. And the preference for more hybrid and remote work is strongest in younger workers, just is, and people with less tenure in their jobs, less legacy, more ripe for disruption. So as he scrolls past where he wants to go, there's a few things that I've thought about, and I'd love this group to build upon it or just tear it apart. I think, and these are my first thoughts about what that looks like in real life. I think the office requires thought. I don't think it's simply going to be you've installed a Zoom room and that works. I saw Jim Colback from Mural say that technology won't save you, the right behaviors and practices will. It's not a tech problem, it's the human behavior problem. I think hybrid can be a number of things. Simon Sinek recently shared that his company has been running for years remotely, and he embraces a hybrid approach. But what that means to him and his team is that you may have a meeting at a location, but on the morning of, if you feel like you don't want to be in front of people, you can join that meeting on your phone. And he believes that's the real flexibility of how each member decides to show up. There's asynchronicity that can happen in the space. What if you can't get to that collaboration session at the time that it happens? I'm loving the discussion around the asynchronous way of working within the design sprint community. There's a talk led by Alison Coward around how teams can work better together, but not in the same time. You know, Marty McFly, look out. I think it's a great area of kind of investigating what can be possible within those areas. And going back to the bad behaviors, we need to improve inclusion and not go back to exclusion. I've been in situations where, because I was remote and people within a room were next to each other, the power was more balanced to those together, and that's bad. That's not democracy and equality. That is a shift of power, because you have the privilege of getting in front of people where they are. Continued search for focus. It's a busy world, and it shouldn't matter where you are, but I think it's more about what you are doing. So I'd love to hear from this group about what you think the different opportunities and challenges are for hybrid work. I'd love to hear either verbally, written in the chat, or written in a sticky note if you're able to do that. I'd love to hear about what you think the different opportunities and challenges are. I'm going to look at the chat now because there's been lots of activity.
There was actually one question, Ross, coming from Scott. If you're seeing any difference in hybrid adoption by country.
I've noticed hybrid. What have I noticed? Adoption, it's still quite early, and I'm talking hybrid adoption out of a kind of lockdown pandemic area. I think out of the three models of wholly remote, wholly in person, and a mix in between, I find that hybrid is the hardest one. There was a model that I found within the facilitation guidebook at Mural. It talks about, you know, whether you've got co-located teams or one team and then remote participants and then remote teams, that has a lot to do with how successful this is. I personally believe that remote teams are most performing and also most human. I believe that you're actually more human in a situation that you choose, whether that's at home or your local coffee shop or library. It's not about presenteeism in the office. It's about, I'm going to do my work at my own schedule, and I'm going to be measured on the work that I do, not the time or what it looks like I'm doing or the banter that we have at the water cooler. I think it's more about the things that we do that we're really signed up to. But yeah, in answer to your question, Scott, I haven't seen, and maybe it's something that we need to kind of research or create about the hybrid adoption of this. Again, this might be the chatbot thing of a few years ago, or personalization, everything needs that maybe people are just housing and talking about it, and they might not actually deliver it. In the UK, and I know Misha's in London, it's becoming a bit of a ghost town. All these high rises of big offices, they're either converting them into residential or they're reformatting them to be more of a kind of a perk or a benefit, or let's get together once a month to do that. So there's massive disruption in it. I'm glad I don't have any dealings in commercial property right now. What other things? Oh, Misha, you did say something. Tribalism, yeah. So I've noticed this too, Misha. I've noticed that in some of the teams that I work in, there can be, in a funny way, more rapid decision making because people decided to go to the office and have a conversation than go at the same pace as everyone else and in a different method. And then when the rest of the team hear it afterwards, they're like, well, how did that conversation happen? Oh, you met up, right? And I wasn't there. There's definitely that's the FOMO effect happening there. So yeah, it's really weird. But I'd love to hear more voices. What are your experiences of this area? Is anyone doing hybrid or being asked about it or anything around that?
I'll take a bit of a stab at it. And I'm giving myself the mic. That's a bit of a weird phenomenon, but no,
go for it.
We've actually been talking about this quite a bit in Butter, because for us, we are a remote team, right? But there's also, like, let's say in Denmark, we have a bunch of people who are there where we're currently registered. And one of the challenges we feel of maybe doing a bit of hybrid is that it can create not tribalism per se, but the idea of that they're second-class citizens. So meaning, since the people who are in the office then might have might connect better versus the ones who are completely remote. So actually, like it's both a challenge and an opportunity, I guess, because sometimes ideas do foster faster, but at the same time, it's also actively or consciously telling them, or at least the people who are sitting together, that they need to be remote all the time. So we've tried to establish practices around, like, when you're calling in for meetings, it almost seems to be like you call in not together but from different setups as well. So just those small nuances are a bit required, I feel.
That's really great. Thank you, Jessica. I also like the comment around fully in person can be really inefficient, and fully remote can also feel quite lonely. I do wonder whether people realize that in person is incredibly inefficient. It probably costs you, you know, £200 to get in the same place. For what? That could be a 10-minute Zoom conversation. But some people feel that if we're going to have the vital, important questions and talk about the really important stuff, that it needs to be in person because you need to deal with my body language or something. I know where my head's at, but I'm really interested in hearing. There may be people here that really enjoy being in person and think it's far better than being remote or hybrid. So I'm interested to hear what you all say.
I think
mic check. Can I go on?
Go for it.
There.
Yeah, okay. So I am Ezekiel. Yeah, for me, I've worked remotely and I've worked in office, and I've also worked in an environment where I can choose to be on site or to work remotely. So I can choose the year to be at home, or I can choose the year to be coming to office. And I think from my experience of being fully on site and fully remote, I think I'll choose the one that gives me more flexibility. Right. Because sometimes working from home can be a little bit too lonely, and also in a way, because of the physical or the on-site, you guys tend to bond more easily rather than being so if I'm joining a new team from the company, I like to go there like for the first 2 weeks so that I can bond more with the engineers in person before I start working remotely with them, and also for some other reasons. So for example, now where I am in Nigeria, yes, sometimes I might have problem with electricity and other things. So I just go to the office while I'm trying to get that resolved. So for me, I feel like the hybrid is actually the perfect solution, where an engineer has the opportunity to either be there in person, go to a physical office in person, or choose to work remotely. The flexibility is actually what increases the efficiency, the performance of the engineer.
Great points. Yeah, I like the point that you raised about bonding. Like we're very sociable creatures, and we don't have a lot of reps of doing that virtually, but it is possible. I think there's always comfort in going back to the ways that we are most familiar with and leadership are most familiar with, which often includes getting in person. But thank you for your comment. I also liked, Peggy, your comment about creating an environment for remote people to make them feel the same as on-site, or is there a different environment to create? And I'm really interested in that. Do you adapt for, or do you create for new? And I like that idea. I'd love to hear more about what you think about that. What else do we have? Yeah, Peggy, go for it.
Yes, actually, can you hear me? Yeah. So actually, I'm just like now, like I just have done one hybrid event last year.
Yeah.
So, but in last year, we still didn't have so much idea about what's the virtual event, what's the hybrid. So, but after we finish the event, so we start thinking like, what kind of like atmosphere or feeling that we should create for on-site and the remote people. Like should we create a totally different hybrid event for both remote and on-site people, or we should make the remote people make them feel like on-site? We still like a bit confusing, like what kind of environment we should create.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a question to discuss. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's really key.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did Mirjam have something to say as well? Let's have a look.
I think Miriam also was in the queue.
Yeah, go for that.
Can you hear me?
Hey.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, all good.
Well, I have to say, first of all, Butter looks amazing. I'm a designer myself, so it's the GIF integration, perfect. I would just have to say this. That's super cool. Because like I came into my organization that I work now remotely as well, and we had this opportunity to work hybrid if I wanted to, like in the office anytime you want, or they give you the option to actually work from home and with extra budget for electricity, blah blah blah. And I do think that going into the organization remotely was a bit hard because you don't really know the dynamics of the organization, who's close to who, and some organizations are more bureaucratic than the others, and it was difficult to kind of go through that, adapting to how the organization works.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, once I got like an overview of the organization, I think the hybrid thing worked out perfectly well. And I actually wrote the comment that before, people would just come up to me and say, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do this?" And that's like it bombards you every day. Every 10 minutes someone would say, "Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me?" And I think the best thing about remote working was just like, knowing that if they don't get you like on Teams or on Slack, they need to email you, and it's like a better process for everyone. They probably need to email their boss, and then the boss would forward the request to me, and I like that better because you know what the priorities are. So for me, I am all for hybrid, and we are social people, but I like working from home. So
that's great. Thank you for that. So you're saying that the tool kind of defines the type of communication, and that your earlier comment about remote onboarding is still an area to be improved if you're going to do that. You commented that it's different to having a tour of the office and getting to know your colleagues and seeing what they look like. Yeah, great feedback. Thank you so much. Cool. Misha.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's the mandatory question, isn't it, before you start talking? One of the thoughts that I had just listening to this was all about how I think one of the biggest barriers of remote onboarding of any kind seems to be the lack of ability to read not just body language, but actually what's happening. Yep. So I don't really know how busy anyone is when I'm not around them and physically, and especially if someone new comes in, I don't know how many people they're speaking to at the same time. So if I want to make someone feel welcomed, it's actually quite hard to know whether I'm bombarding them alongside with 50 other people while welcoming them to the company and asking them how they're settling in and they feel overwhelmed. Yep. Versus they feel welcomed and made feel comfortable. But the opposite can happen where you feel like this has been handled and actually they feel very isolated. Whether that's a new person or an existing person, I think that's what I've seen as the biggest challenges, where you don't have the social ability to see when someone's feeling isolated or overwhelmed, whether with work or with attention. And I think once we start solving these problems, it will become so much more comfortable for people to be fully remote without feeling like they're missing out on things.
Great comments, and goes back to what we're trying to talk about. It's about how do you deal with that FOMO in an environment where you're getting the best and worst of both worlds. It's an interesting area. Do you what do you see your future in that space? Do you think you're going to be in more hybrid situations, or do you feel like you're one or the other?
I would love to be able to do to believe that everyone that wants to be fully remote can be fully remote, because I think it gives people not just the flexibility to not commute every day, but to live where they want to live, and that might be in a different country, and not just be expected to be in the office a couple of days a week. For some, this would be a great solution. For others, it won't be. And that's where I think process comes into place, so that you don't feel like what a few people mentioned, a second-hand citizen, or in general left alone to do your thing and just forgotten about. Where good companies come up with good processes, that's where we're going to see real valid ways of being remote without feeling like you're a different type of employee.
Great comments. I'd love to build on some of those. Process to me is vital. If I don't know the way of doing something, I'm probably going to email 5 people or schedule a meeting or, ask the wrong people. I think, whereas you might be in person in an office, you could use people to signpost where you need to go and what you need to do. But I think organizations have been pretty poor at documenting their processes first and then looking at improving them. And I think, that the next thing that's going to be bandied about is automation, where people feel like they're automating because they have a few things, but there's still 10 people holding that all up. And I think a lot of the aids of making processes work within a hybrid environment is people's roles are going to change. We're actually going to have to do less busy work, because that doesn't help with asynchronicity, with flexibility. If you want to feed into an agenda, you have to do that at your own time. And I think the key thing, and I as my contribution to the playbook here, is about decision making. How do we make decisions that enable everyone to cast their vote, which kind of highlights the mechanism, but we can do without the kind of group-wide meeting in 2 weeks' time? I think there's so many value adds of making great change, but it's always to do with the people being comfortable with making a decision within 5 minutes of knowing the problem. I think that's just, and that's within workshops, but also outside of it. Butter's great at this. You will have ideas one day, and then before that day is done, you've probably started to solve it. And the rapid kind of startup mindset has to be embraced throughout any kind of business and team, because the world doesn't stop and we're getting faster. I loved your comments. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to feed into this? And I know a few other topics. I've tried to note take around best practices, but has anyone got any kind of bad stories or examples where hybrid hasn't worked, or any experiences of embracing a good hybrid practice? Anyone got anything
seems to have a comment right now.
Yeah, Juliana, I'd love to hear from you.
Hi guys, I just wanted to say that I love this idea, this new thing that you built. It's amazing. I was actually trying to find something to get my group together more closely. I work in Colombia, but my company is based in the US, and they're actually not all in the same place. Some of them are in Arizona, some of them are in California. So all of us are remote. There's also a couple of more people here in Colombia in other cities, different than mine. So that's cool, but sometimes it's hard to get close because of the distance. So we try to find things to get us closer, and I think this will help us a lot with that. I'm trying to set some meetings this week and get them to test it with me. I tested yesterday when it launched, but I want to give it a real try. So, and just to comment on the hybrid, I think you still miss a little bit of connection with people. So remote is great because it allows you to do whatever you want whenever you want, and no one has to know what you're working on at this precise moment. And you can be wherever you want to be, and it doesn't affect your work, but it does affect a bit the connection with people. So we are actually trying to book an offsite where we all get to work for at least 1 week, seeing each other faces. So that, I think that we need that sometime. Maybe not very often, but we need that. And thanks for the work.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And you know, Colombia is, you're going to have the better coffee than your Californian friends for sure. This is the thing about remote and hybrid work. That doesn't mean that you never meet up. Some of the teams that I respect, GitLab, pre-pandemic Mural would do this as well, is every quarter or every half year, they would all meet up. They'd all descend on some amazingly, you know, cool island and have a great time together, sometimes without talking about work. And it's about, as you say, that connection. I also think on the flip side that in 2021, some companies have overextended themselves and they're trying to provide the social benefits of being part of their business. And I think through the pandemic and certainly through lockdown, I've got to know my neighbors more. I'm not in the capital city of London. I'm in a little city outside. And I think there can be a trend towards decentralization of needing to be where the action is, whether that's Silicon Valley or, you know, Buenos Aires or, you know, Paris or anywhere. I think we could actually do less work. We can actually take out some of the social elements of some of our kind of businesses, and we can replace that and build upon the local communities that we have. But that's one person's view, probably not everyone's. More comments?
I think Ezekiel had a comment. I love it, guys. Thank you for sharing all your input. It's super lovely, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally don't want to talk for an hour. That's not my remit here.
Okay. So for me, you were asking about if anyone had a downside or this one. So I just wanted to share this. So mostly for me, I think the downside is if a company is fully remote and they are bringing in a new person, I think the onboarding process has always been a struggle, especially when the company doesn't actually have they haven't figured it out. It's always like a struggle for the new person coming in. Because yeah, but let me just mention one of the best practices I've seen out there. So one of the best practices I've seen out there is when I join in the company. I always have somebody that we call on body. So it simply means that the person will be in charge of onboarding me to the code base, explain everything to me. The person will be basically responsible for me for the next 1 month. So I can always go to this person without feeling stupid or feeling like I'm talking this person. So I think that really helps than figuring everything out by yourself.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's super cool. Yeah, like I said in the intro, it's the Wild West. I think if there's an ability to create something, then hybrid definitely needs that because it needs solving. And it's so great to hear more about what everyone is sharing here. I want to use the remaining time to put together some of the comments that we've had into some form of a playbook that we can at least draft and build upon and share. I think often these things happen by some people having their best guess, and then we validate and we make better and better and iterate. So I thought putting a playbook together could be quite fun. And also, if someone is still wondering what that kind of hybrid life looks like, this is what I think isn't the future. There's so many images on Unsplash and others about what hybrid looks like, and I don't think this is it. I don't think it's one person remoting in, and then if you see these two are having a great conversation and this person's listening in, and there's two screens of the same. This isn't it. This isn't the future that we're trying to design here. This is, you know, some kind of catalog shop. I think the future looks very different in hybrid. I'm not convinced that it looks anything like this. So yeah, if you find any other photos that don't look like hybrid but claim to be, add them in here. I'd love to see them. Okay, what else have we got? Yeah, we've got some comments here. I just want to capture them. So be conscious about the setting and try to be remote, even if you're not. I float an idea about if one person is remote, everyone is remote. And that works in a hybrid environment as well, because if you can't hear and see people and see the material, then you know you're missing out on a whole heap. Automation, bad at documenting process. Awesome. Someone has been great at taking some notes. Great. I'm going to move us down here. And if you double click on this large document, that is a Google Docs. And what I've done is just put a few ideas in there. I've just used a template, but it'd be super cool to see what you have to contribute and what you would suggest. You can use this area here to add some notes, and I can just paste them in. But some of the ideas I thought of around creating a playbook, there's no real rules here. It's just a place, a wiki, something that you can add to. But I was thinking, what can teams do to enable hybrid collaboration? Every meeting having a butter link, for example, would be awesome. Are they called butter links, Jessica? Have you got a trademark for that yet?
Yeah, maybe that's something we should consider. Julie noted.
Okay. All right. Send that to the invention crew. What's blocking teams from doing great hybrid work? You know, an example may be there's little peer influence. You know, I get so many comments on, for example, my Zoom background, but you know that to me means that people are wanting to learn more and kind of work out what kind of setup I'm running. And we talked earlier about DSLRs and things. And what tools can best help us? So I think transcribing things and translation. I mean, we haven't talked about yet the opening up and embracing, you know, all those common areas of diversity and inclusion, multinationalism. You know, how I've recently been thinking all of my workshops are really bad for blind people. Like I haven't solved that problem yet. You know, can you move your sticky note to where it needs to be? That doesn't help everyone. So yeah, there's so much that kind of goes into this that I'd be really interested here. So I'm going to try and screen share my Google Doc. I'm guessing I close this window. I'm doing it anyway. Yeah. Great. See, I'm more new than all of you.
You're a pro, man.
And I'm going to share this window. There we go.
Awesome.
There we go. Okay.
There.
You seeing the Google Doc?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, what does a playbook look like? So usually this looks like some kind of instructions that people use. And we talked about remote onboarding earlier, but really it's a resource for people to look at and learn before someone commits a 1 hour Zoom meeting. Or I've seen onboarding last half a day, maybe a full day, because you're just downloading knowledge into another person. but that knowledge doesn't really improve over time. So love to kind of hear what people would share on this. I can link it in the chat as well.
Ross, if you want, we can also open the Google Drive file here.
Oh, awesome!
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
for anyone new,
it's easier.
there is a way to do that, which I totally forgot.
No worries.
Here are all my Google accounts.
Cool.
I'm just entering the matrix. Everything is kind of disappearing in front of me.
We can close this. I'll close this for a bit, so you don't need to share.
That's cool. Here we go. Awesome.
Cool.
Butter's really great.
Oh man, we should create snippets of that. No, thank you.
Okay, cool. This is my second week of using Butter, by the way, so be kind. Okay, so yeah, I really would just appreciate some kind of you know, anything that you want to add here. There's just some kind of guesses here. We could just delete all this and start from scratch, but Cheska, maybe we could like play some music, have a little break, and if people want to add to this over the next few minutes, then that could break things up a bit.
Sounds good. Let me put up.
You got some Paris cafe music, something from Colombia, maybe.
Let's go with jazzy Butter. Let's say 4 minutes.
We'll do jazzy
with
Butter.
4 minutes work, Ross. Okay.
Go for that. Yeah.
Awesome. That's it, actually. With need more time. Love how everyone was just putting down ideas. That was really cool to see, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that deserves a bit of an applause for everyone.
Let's go for that. That's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you,
well,
thank you.
I've been enjoying. I'm a bit of a doer, so if I can end every session with something to show for it, it's always a good measure for me. Yeah, look at what we've started. So I want to highlight a few things. If anyone wants to build upon it, please do raise the mic. So what did we hear? No meeting gets added without an agenda or purpose. I love that. Misha, I would also say feel free to not go to a meeting that hasn't got an agenda. Someone will get the hint. What else have we got? Team agreements on meeting 3 days or blocks of time. Yeah, I put in, we have no meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You covered that. That's great. We're on similar scales. CACs, that's awesome. Better signposting of when people are busy versus available. This can minimize disruptions. That is great. Whether you use Slack or something else, yeah, use Slack's status, or maybe love to embrace. That's just awesome. Cool. Look after yourself. That's a big deal. There is a certain element of the playbook instructing and the playbook suggesting, and I think each individual has individual needs on how you look after yourself, but sometimes it's nice to have some instructions. I'm not sure a forced yoga session for everyone is probably the right thing. I think if you have it and people come, you're probably halfway home. What else did we get? We had culture. Misha said a culture of asking for and offering help. That's great. I've had experience where people were afraid to ask for help because it demonstrated that they didn't know everything, which they felt like they were paid to do, and it was too vulnerable a position for them. So offering that as a statement is more of a welcome mat for everyone else. So great job. Awesome. Cheska, was there anything that stuck out for you? Does Butter have some kind of guidance on how you operate, or are you just too cool? You don't need instructions.
No, I'm kidding. No, actually, that's I think we're gonna take a lot of inspiration from this as well. But just to share, we are doing our own operating principles, because like even if we are a young company, we feel that, especially if we want to scale, we need to do it right. And we need to be super explicit with how we communicate with each other, what sort of things we expect from each other. And I feel even the values part is super important. Like a lot of companies talk about values, but how you exhibit those values is a different question altogether. That's something, this is sort of something we're working on at the moment. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm always interested in how startups kind of navigate that, whether everyone just knows or it's great to formalize some of these things.
Yeah.
And over communicating, that every team says, oh, I wish we had more communication, but they don't realize that quantity isn't quality, and there's often a kind of mismatch between, do we need more communication or just different? Is a all hands meeting better than an email? Probably yes. Should every session end with a Q&A? Almost definitely. There's a few kind of nuances to things that I think people miss, and yeah, it's great to highlight that.
How about you guys at Etch? Do you have some sort of manual, especially on the communication part? I think that's super important.
Yeah, certainly. So at Etch, we actually transitioned from a in-person studio company to a remote first company, and we celebrated our 12-month anniversary of that. And yeah, we actually experimented. We did stand-ups every day, and we found out that was too much. we found that we started sending emails about 12 months ago, and they have converted into all hands sessions. And we've started, we haven't started, we've had a wiki for a while, but a lot of the kind of micro processes, they're starting to be documented now, so that everyone in the business knows the process rather than a select few. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Hope you guys can share a bit of learnings from that after you've wrapped it up.
Everything is work in progress, people. No one has it all figured out, and if they say they have, they're lying.
There's something wrong for sure. But yeah,
great.
Any other thoughts, guys? Actually, someone was asking around Q&A at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, Juliana. Yeah, really for anything. Sometimes sessions are so focused on one thing, and then people have questions arising from that might be a bit, off-piste or something you put in the parking lot. I think always having a Q&A culture means that everyone's in the know of what's going on. You could have a session about, what's our summer retreat, and then someone asks, how's the business performing? And they really want to know that answer. So I think if you've got the right people, a culture of Q&A is just a fantastic tool to use. Hope that answers the question. Cheska, I think we're
wrapping up.
Yeah. How best can we close out? You're a bit of a professional about this.
I think let's close out with a bit of energy, guys. But for sure, you're the one who does this a lot better. But thank you, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your time and energy with us, Ross. It was really amazing. I think I speak for everyone saying this was such a nice and insightful session. All right, guys, maybe a quick thumbs up or excellent for us. Okay, 2.
It's all right. I don't need it.
3. Or you guys can play around with the soundboards if you want. Cool, but thank you so much, Ross. I think just to cap off this session, we'd also love to know from everything we discussed, what's your biggest takeaway from this ButterMixer? And even better, if there's something that you want to change or you want to implement differently after this, what would it be? And yeah, I'll play a bit of music again, just to share. That's cool. Everyone seems to have answered. Thank you, guys. Let me stop that music. Thank you, guys, for sharing all those, I think, awesome takeaways. Mine got deleted at the end, so that was good. But yeah, thank you guys for sharing. I think let's open the floor for, given just our talk on culture of Q&A. If you guys want, we can take 5 minutes to share or ask Ross anything, if you have any questions.
Yeah, I can't say end every session with Q&A and not
and then
feature
not
Q&A.
have a Q&A, right? Any questions from anyone?
Good luck.
Okay, Juliana.
This is more related to the product, but did you guys, where do you get the music from? Did you made it especially for this, or?
No, we wish we
Yeah,
had.
it took me weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, my hands are just like this.
Oh man, love it. No, actually, so most of it is music that we took from stock sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, but we
It's
will
very well
hopefully
curated.
still. Thank you for the curiosity.
Very nice.
Yeah, it beats Microsoft Teams any day. My word.
Oh my god, we need to have that meme up, Ross. Any other questions?
I'll find that meme.
No questions? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, then I guess like we've discussed and answered most of the questions that they had. But in any case, thank you so much, guys, for sharing and joining us in this ButterMixer. I hope to see you in the next one. And again, thank you, Ross, for sharing all your time and energy. It was fun, super.
Easy, anytime if you'll have me. Yeah, it was good fun. Thank you.
Man. Thank you. Bye, guys. I hope to see you in the next one.